Alright, welcome back. Today I have a very exciting game. This is a game between a very young Korean professional playing white, Shin Jinseo, and he was born in 2000. I think he's 14 now, and he's been playing really well. He's still only a 2-dan, but he's definitely one of the, probably going to be one of the rising stars in Korea. And he's playing against KG, who's a Chinese professional player who has really stormed out of the gate this year. He moved all the way up. He's broke into the top 10 Chinese professionals in summer of this year, 2014, and he's currently ranked number 2 in China. So definitely a very, very strong young Chinese player who was born in 1997. So just 3 years older than Jinseo, sorry. And this is a pretty spectacular game. I'm not sure why they were playing each other. The game record didn't have the event on it. I assume that it's probably some sort of international tournament of some kind, since both these players are playing so strongly at the moment. And Black starts off at the 3-4. And I thought this was interesting. You don't really see two 4-4 points very often anymore. Oftentimes, White will play at the 3-4 point facing the stone to make a slightly larger area on the side. But White has a very, very fast style in this game, and it's kind of interesting to watch how the opening goes. Like so far, so normal. You know, Black encloses. White makes the shape, and typically the Joseki here is to just make this extension. But we've been seeing pros experiment a little bit when Black has a situation in the upper right. And basically, one thing to consider here is that several pros have been trying this. And normally, when we want the stone here, we would just play the other Joseki, make the solid connection here, and then extend to this point. This is very natural. One potential problem with this is that this is actually very outside oriented, despite this stone being on the third line, because Black can just come in like this, especially if they get a stone over here and, you know, either connect on either side once Black makes this extension over here. So like if there were a Black stone here, this is easily invadable. And I mean, you know, there's even ways to just invade right away and then crawl out. So this doesn't secure any territory at all. But it's nice for jumping out into the center with this 2-stone wall. So, you know, if there's a play somewhere else and we decide that the center is important, we can do things like this with this 2-stone wall right here. So, in this case, White goes all the way and attaches over against the enclosure. And this is an interesting strategy because, you know, this stone is strong, so the idea is, well, we'll just make it stronger and then get a position on the side. And then this is interesting as well, because like I mentioned before, it's this tighter extension from this framework. And, you know, normally, if we were just thinking standard play, it looks like this is the point. This is, you know, a 2-space extension from a stone on the third line, and this is the standard Joseki shape over, you know, for these 3 stones over here. And this is the reason that we play the tiger's mouth, is so that we can go a line further. Because when we play here, this leaves a weakness because Black can peep here at some point. Now, whether this works immediately, or if we can resist, or if we can resist on the other side, or if we just have to connect, you know, it's an interesting question that depends on the whole board situation. But notice now that, you know, it doesn't look like this move is working quite as well, because Black might be able to just come in like this and start fighting, depending on the whole board situation. So we can see that, you know, having this tiger's mouth is, the reason for this is normally to go a line further. But, and the reason this is interesting is even, you know, with these 2 stones as backup over here, there's still a nasty invasion point right here, and Black can force a nasty ko by playing this attachment, and, you know, if White can't fight that ko, then White gets badly damaged by this invasion. And even if White can fight the ko, maybe Black is aiming to get compensation somewhere else. So the idea with this tight extension after the tiger's mouth is that now there's no invasion here, which is in, you know, either of the other variations. You know, if, like this, there's still the invasion at A. And likewise, if we go to the other Joseki, like this, there's still the invasion at A. So the idea behind this move is to create a side situation where there is no invasion point. So that, you know, we know that this is at least secure on the side right here. It's interesting because in some ways it's a little more conservative. We're getting less with our initial moves. But in the long run, there's fewer weaknesses behind. And this is kind of goes back to the basic concept of attacking. You want your own groups to be strong in case there's a fight. So the idea here is often, you know, that white's planning to get into a fight somewhere on the board. So, you know, he makes this compact shape that's very strong on the right side. Now, there's this, you know, invasion point here now, but I think white is treating these two stones lightly, as they're just forcing moves. Nothing to be concerned about. The main thing is that we've got this shape on the side that we want. So now, black goes ahead and approaches the upper side, which is logical. You know, this stone is higher than this stone, you know, so, you know, this stone makes it very difficult for black to build on the bottom, whereas here, you know, especially if we think, well, maybe white's gonna, you know, do something like this at some point, and now this is obviously much higher over on this side. So just a little minor direction of play thing that this stone makes it uninteresting for black to approach on this direction. So you might even see black approaching on the inside just because the stone is low, and then when white develops towards the low stone, it reduces white's potential as well. And, you know, this is a, you know, pretty standard. If you want to leave the corner aji, you can just jump, or just make a two-space extension is also playable. But with the higher stones here, black is thinking, oh, I maybe want to build something over here. And this looks really jealous right here, and if white came in like this right away, looking to live, you know, and just make 2 points on the side while black gets this thick outer wall, that would be a terrible strategy. You know, because this is not anywhere near black's territory. Even over here, with the high jump, it's like, it's not really your territory yet. You've just got a sphere of influence on the top. But instead, white uses this interesting technique, and I really like this diagonal jump, instead of, most of the time when we get kicked, we just think, okay, I'll just extend to prevent the tiger's mouth. But in this case, white does this jump here, and the idea being, if it kind of looks natural for black to, you know, hane here. But then when white comes in here, now we're in a situation like we were in a crosscut, and black played an Atari with the A stone. And that doesn't really seem like the best idea. Like if it was, you know, if we take this stone off the board, you know, and we look at, well, what does black want to do? Actually, take that one off as well. What does black want to do in this crosscut? You know, it looks more like this extension here looks pretty solid, because it relates better with this stone. If we Atari and white extends, it's like, well, why did we do that Atari? Now we just have to come back and save this cut, but white has the ladder now. So it's an interesting tactic to maybe get a little bit more, and it's also very light. And so we can see right away that white's intention with this stone at L17 was not to invade and live small, but just to see where the aji was, and then proceed. And you can see here black actually makes an empty triangle because he doesn't like this, you know, hane combination. So this, we can see this is a pretty cool move here. And then white jumps out to here, paying no attention to the L17 stone. And now we can see, okay, white just wanted a couple forcing moves on the outside. That's totally reasonable. So it's, you know, if you play this invasion here looking to live and take away what you see as black's territory, and black just gets thick on the outside, that would be really good for black, because the especially towards the beginning of the game, the thickness is really valuable. And then, you know, white has these two stones reducing the center and just jumps out here. And I was kind of looking at this because this move does leave this push and cut, and this is not looking very working. Because basically we've got 3 liberties to 4, white just loses everything, so white's going to have to give up the 2 stones. But notice that this push and cut is gote, and it is big. I mean, don't get me wrong, this is a very large capture. But it's endgame, and it's Gote endgame, and this is still the opening of the, of the battle. So this would be very slow for black at this point. Because alternatively, if you were worried about that, maybe if this were the late middle game, you might push here and then jump, so that there's not that cut. You can just capture the stone in a ladder if black tries to do a similar technique. So white jumps out with the knight's move, and you can see this is, it's building up. This does kind of remove the invasion point here. White can just bump into it and prevent the connection and jump out. And now black goes into the corner, and this is where the game kind of goes off the rails. Like, everything so far is pretty straightforward. This white's trying some innovative things on the right side, which seem to work pretty well, and this reducing maneuver is pretty slick, in my opinion, because there's still room for white to, come back and invade this area. But for right now, just getting the stones on the outside is pretty nice. And now, this is a really interesting Joseki shape, because when white has made the knight's move in response to the approach, and then you invade, one option for white is to descend here and totally seal black into the corner. And typically, the Joseki, they play Joseki up to this point. And the simple variation right now is for black to take the corner, and then white just protects the cutting point on the outside. And white gets, this is our pretty standard 3-3 invasion, where, white gets influence, black gets the corner territory. The question, though, is, at this point, can black cut here? And it's definitely an interesting question. Typically, the normal variation here would be for white to just jump out to save these two stones. Black can extend, and then white can hane here. And this, and now black could come back to do this. And depending on the whole board situation, this might be good if, black has a lot of stones, especially on both sides. White could end up with 2 weak groups, while black only has 1. But white does get the first move on the outside, so in this case, it's looking like, maybe we just cap this, and we won't really have any problems. It's got to jump out, we can, come out with these guys. This isn't really getting much for black. So, this isn't exactly the situation, but we could also see, if there were a black stone, like already over here, and so maybe this 1-point jump is attaching to something, or maybe we have a stone right here, and now these white stones are in trouble already, that this descent right here at B14 would be wrong in that case. So if white is... If that cut is working for black, then what white would do here is just play like this. And then black can come out. And then depending on the situation, white can either continue to extend, and here black would probably just take Sente and play elsewhere. Or white could leave the situation as is if this hane is bearable. So just to think, if that cut is damaging, then you can't play the block. You've got to let black out on the left side. And now, black does play the cut, so white responds by playing the hane over here. And this is basically the same. The idea now would be that, if black comes out here or here, we just do the 1-point jump now, and we're transposing into the other variation. I think white is worried that if, in this case, white does jump out, which is the more normal response, that black doing something like this might be annoying and or scary. So white prioritizes the upper side by playing the hane instead of this 1-point jump. And now, back to the game. This is where the game kind of goes off the rails, because black has a crazy idea here, and if you've watched KG play, he's really good at doing these weird exchanges in games. Like, all of a sudden, he's just, like, sacrificing these huge groups in order to kill another large group, and just the whole game gets thrown into confusion, and this is basically one of those moments, because black hanes here, which starts a really difficult fight for survival for these two stones. So white has to come out I mean, there's not really any options here. Black continues, and now this is really important timing. White Hane's here. And this is the reason that black usually goes back to connect at c16. Like, this is the move, because if black doesn't play this, and white plays here, black will respond here, white can kill the corner now. If black doesn't defend at c16 before white gets a chance to do this, the corner is dead now. So the only problem for white is that the corner also has a lot of liberties. Black will probably be able to make a large 4 or 5 point eye, and that means that this group has like probably close to 10 liberties by the time that everything is said and done. So the white group at A does not have the luxury. This group only has 3 liberties, so obviously if it's like 3 to like 8 or 10, we know who's going to win that. So white doesn't have the time to come back and Hane at A and kill the corner right now. Instead, white has to protect the stones over on the left side. So we can see here, white has to keep pushing on the second line, Again, throws in this Atari to strengthen the top. It would be really tragic, because I think maybe if white does this one more time, black might extend here and let white come out, but white doesn't want that to happen, so throws in the Atari. And now, finally, white comes back and connects here, which is really interesting because this move definitely impacts the life and death in the corner, and it's fairly complicated, but the thing is that even now, if white plays this move to cleanly kill the corner, there's a problem in that white just doesn't have quite enough liberties with this group still. And because black is going to be able to get like at least 8 liberties in the corner. So white connects here, and this move threatens the corner for sure. It doesn't actually threaten to kill it, but if there's basically 2 options here. If black tries to come back and save the corner now, white can play here to force a ko, because what will happen is black will come here, white plays here, and now black has to play here to get 2 eyes, but white can start this ko now. Black does get to capture it first, but I mean, this is the type of ko situation where, even if you don't win the ko, you're getting compensation somewhere else. Like, black originally was going to have this corner territory, but now, even if white just does this, black, this alone, this would be compensation plenty for the ko, because now this wall is, this is actually pretty weak because it has no eye shape, and it's just, there's white stones everywhere, so its influence is very difficult to use. So that would be one way. On the other hand, if white knows that he can't win the ko, he has another option, which is this weird-looking push right here. And black can live by playing here, but white will be able to capture these 3 stones and connect the 2 groups, which is also good, and black will only get 2 points in the corner in this variation. The main thing here is that, right, we do this, black plays, or no, do we throw in first? I think we throw in, oh yeah, we throw in, and if black captures here, we go here, and you can see black doesn't have time to save the 3 stones, because now this is just dead, and it doesn't have very many liberties. So instead, black has to go here, and then when white captures, black can recapture, but now the groups are connected. So, and I guess black gets 3 points in this variation. But connecting these 2 groups is enough, because the whole point of this initial cut was that black wanted to be able to attack. So that would be, this would be a failure for black. And like I said, if white can win the ko, or wants to do something else, white could, and it's, especially at the professional level, giving your opponent 2 options like that so they can decide which is better is something, that even in our own games we want to avoid, because basically, if white can fight the ko, white will choose to fight the ko, and if not, can just connect the groups. So it's like giving your opponent two good options is never good. So anyway, finally, this kind of settles the aji over here for the moment. Like I said, even if black comes back to play another move, white can still connect at the worst. So black moves on. And this is kind of a neat inducing sequence because this kind of forces black to turn here, which he wanted to do anyway. And black gets this turn in Sente because white plays another move, and now the corner is definitively dead. But, white had to play some moves on the inside. Black got this wall, separated the side from the corner. It's pretty good. Definitely an even game so far. And now, black, if you don't know, this is kind of a trap for white, because if white plays this directly, and there's already just a stone at c8 instead of, and it's even worse with this two-stone wall, this is a really brutal point. This just totally shreds white. And white can play here to sort of salvage something, but there's a ladder going out as a result of this move. And although the ladder is working for white right now because of these two stones, the thing is that there's definitely going to be fighting in here and leaving this potential ladder behind. Like if black tries to come through here, white has to worry about the ladder and the local fight on the upper side. So that's why when black pushes in here, white doesn't block in the corner, but jumps out, back to the game, jumps out here, which is immediately stopping the ladder. Like now this move ends the ladder from that previous variation that I showed. And also too, with the weakness in the corner, it's better for white to just jump out in this situation. Another possible move would be to play here. This is a little bit more shape-wise, a little better, but white wants to pressure the lower side. So this is putting more pressure on the points around h3. So black jumps, and now white comes back and blocks in the corner because this stone is keeping black from totally destroying white. Black plays a move here, white hanes to keep the liberties really tight. Now all black can hope to do is just connect here. And even then, white's still going to be able to come in, but, you're at least saving the two stones at some point. And that's not something that black will do now, but it's, it's an endgame point, essentially, if you're just looking at saving the two stones. White comes out here. We're seeing white's building up a pretty good area from the right side so far. And black is building also a nice area along the bottom, too. And we can kind of see that, black is using this wall's influence, not doing anything direct with it, but allowing white to build up on the outside while he is taking territory. So we can see, kind of as a result of these moves, black is, letting white build up more because he knows he has this influence to use. And it's also doing a lot of damage to this, lower left group. So here you can see black activating the aji at this point. And, this still would potentially allow, because we can see that this is kind of a problem for white. White's going to have to figure out how to make this work. And in this point, I think that it might be best to give up the one stone, because you can still connect back to the corner. You might not even do that right now. You might just jump out, to keep this group from being completely surrounded. So this is still problematic, but it's not as problematic as when this stone is not here. And then black comes back again to defend this. And white seals off this side. So now this moyo is serious. There's no way for black to come in from either side after this move and this move. And black is really calm. He just, reinforces the top. Because, this is a lot of territory. Black is taking a lot of territory. White is building a large moyo. And now white comes back to do this. And that gives black the timing to do this. So essentially, instead of destroying the corner, black created a situation where white was going to have to take gote. So this is the compensation that black gets. It's kind of interesting to see how black played this point on the inside in order to get the move on the outside, even though it lets white, live more easily than some of the other options available. But, black wants to come out, so black comes out. And now, yeah, this is an interesting move, because if we go back right here, this is kind of like, you look at this giant Moyo, and it's like, where do I come in here? There's so much space. Like, I really, this is a hard move to make, just to decide on a point. And I think this is pretty cool, because if white just caps, which would be kind of, that's like the first move that I look at, because we kind of, if we draw a line from like kind of the edge here over to the edge over here, if your opponent comes deeper than this line, then the cap should be sort of your first instinct. Be like, well, can I just cap it and surround it and kill it? And here, that gets really tricky, because white's so thin right here. Like these three stones, like right up against the wall. One thing that would be really simple for black to do here is just peep and attach, and black is getting out in this situation, no problem. Because this isn't really working, or maybe it's sort of working. I don't know. Can white withstand this coming out? Withstand the cut over here? There's lots of other things that black could do too, but sometimes when you look at things, you just look at the most severe variation first and see how it goes. Because alternatively, in this situation, another option would be to do something like this, and just come through over here and maybe aim at this cut. So yeah, white's defending one part of the Moyo, but you're capturing a bunch of stones on another part. There's lots of different ideas. But in this case, it looks like the cap's not working so well, and so white just reinforces this thin shape over here. And again, this goes back to the basic concept of if you're going to attack, you want your own shape to be as strong as possible beforehand. Black jumps out, and then this is kind of funny, like finally now that, white's lived in the corner and has some stones and is strong over on the right, white's kind of attacking this wall. So black has to come back and defend, but this is also threatening to link up to the center. White separates, but now black is just saying, you know what, if I get like 3 or 4 moves before you start your attack, I can probably live in here. This is a lot of space. So now it's not just 1 stone, it's 3 stones, which is going to be harder to deal with. And now this cut right here, it restricts the movement of this 1 black stone, unless black comes back and plays another move to capture. And now black is kind of having to be like, well, I need to make sure this black wall lives. But you notice that, even though this wall is weak now, black basically was able to build up the lower side, build up the top side, and get 3 stones inside the Moyo in exchange for this thickness. Like, now this thickness is completely gone, and it's just a semi-weak group, but black got quite a bit out of that thickness without even directly using it. And that's how you just want your thickness to sit there threatening your opponent. Like, you don't want to use it directly. You want to play elsewhere and have your opponent realize, oh shoot, like, I can't play this variation because that'll give me a weak group running towards that wall. Oh, I have to back off here because black could actually invade and then run towards that wall. And it subtly impacts like all those variations that work or don't work throughout the game. So, you don't use it directly. You just let it stare at your opponents and make them afraid. So here, this is pretty cool. KG, has these 4 stones that he played in a row, ignored a couple peeps, and now cuts through here. And it's kind of interesting how, with all these moves, black gets these forcing exchanges, and now looks like black is gonna live on the right side, which is pretty big, So we can see here that, white has to come here, black comes down, and now this black group is pretty much alive. Not to mention the fact that there's this connection along the bottom, so push come to shove, black can play here and connect via this monkey's jump. And might lose some stones, but probably not. Yeah, it looks like that just connects everything. So, a couple of options, can either make 2 eyes or connect back to the corner, which is pretty good. And now white comes and peeps over on this side, which kind of, seals this area off a little bit better. And we can see with this move that white converted a pretty large area in the center into territory in this exchange. So that's pretty good. It looks definitely, pretty solid. Black's got big territories on the top right and on the bottom side, but white's got this big area, and this corner is pretty decently sized. The real question in the corner is whether or not white will eventually have to come in and remove these stones from the board. So for example, if black starts reducing the liberties of this white group, starting from here, does white have to come back and start reducing the liberties of the black group? In that circumstance, that's going to reduce the size of this white corner by a little bit. Because white will be playing inside his own territory while black is reducing the territory from the outside. So like Hane's here, this white group still has some weaknesses, more or less. And moreover, this also impacts whether or not white will have to capture these stones, is if this group doesn't get eyes of its own, then likewise these stones will have to be removed from the board. So, some interesting maneuvers here. It's interesting here too, because this point, when black comes here, this is pretty big, because this captures these stones, makes this territory, removes the chance that white will have to come back and connect over here. But, it's Gote, and professional players really don't like taking Gote. And now this is another wild sequence. Keiji plays on the inside of this really secure-looking area. Like, this is definitely black territory, or it looks like black territory. But Keiji is going to press really hard, and notice, and this is a cute way to connect out, because this doesn't extend white's liberties, black would just capture. When white plays here, black again connects in a fancy way, because again, white can't play here, because it would be reduced his own liberties to put himself in Atari. So this is just like a slick way to connect these stones out. And now, I think you might see the problem here. This group of 6 white stones over here is surrounded and doesn't have very many liberties. So there's a question of what's going to happen. If black can get just enough liberties, he can come back and capture these stones in here. But white knows, up to this point, black does get enough, so white has to come and capture this one stone to make an eye. Black does a couple forcing exchanges, comes back to keep white out of the corner, and now plays here. And now the situation is, it's a very close capturing race between the black stones played on the inside and the white stones over here. And so white has to do this, which threatens to, come in and capture the stones directly, and then come back and play this. And basically, black gets this move at S8 and Sente as a result of all these machinations on the inside. And notice that white had to play most of the moves on the inside himself, so this wasn't really expanding white's territory, because white had to connect here and play these moves on the inside, and these moves on the inside, and these moves on the inside. So white was playing a lot of moves in his own territory, and only a few moves that reinforced the territory on the outside. So this is not too painful for black. And now black comes here to capture the 2 stones, and like this point was so big, I'm kind of surprised white didn't take it. But the thing is that black still can't cut here because it's self-Atari. So these stones are still connected. They still have outside, liberties enough to capture these stones if need be. So white is just continuing to play on other important points. Black descends in Sente. It's pretty nice. Pushes in Sente. Comes here in Sente. So, black, basically got some territory over here in Sente and kept this group alive by playing these moves on the middle. It wasn't that black expected to live or capture something when he activated this Aji. It was to create a more dynamic situation so that some other moves on the outside would be forcing. And now, this is pretty much endgame. It is endgame. Just playing along. Nothing too exciting. Finally, black completely cuts this off, which means that at some point white's going to have to come back and capture these stones. Pokes there, pokes there. And now this is a really interesting move, because this is kind of small in and of itself, because, I mean, black is essentially, you know, what is it preventing in terms of a black move? Like, if white plays, you know, anywhere else, and black plays this, you know, white doesn't even have to respond to it, so it would just be gote for black. And it only reduces white's territory by 1 point. Now, white might be worried enough to play something here to make sure that there's a second eye, just now that this black group is settled and everything. So maybe this would be sente for black. But for white to play it, you know, it just doesn't seem that big, but it does give white 2 eyes, and it has a really big follow-up. So this is something that's kind of a subtle thing about endgame moves. And so black plays over here to just be like, well, I'm poking at your eye shape a little bit, and I'm reinforcing my group here, making sure I have 2 eyes for sure. And then white plays this. And this is a pretty big reduction. And you can see, you know, black can't separate the stone down here. So white gets to play this. And so white takes a big chunk out of the lower side. And this sequence was sente. And since it's sente, we should really add its value to this gote move. So you can think of, like, when we play this move, we're assuming that we're going to get this reduction in sente, and since things we get in sente are kind of for free, like, you know, it's like they're just points that we get, and it's still our move at the end of it. So even though this move was really, like, you know, a slow, you know, maybe 2-point reverse sente move, the follow-up reduction is really big, and we should calculate that when we figure the value of that move. And now it's just more endgame. You know, we both have to protect our weaknesses here. And then this is the move right here. So on the one hand, you know that these stones are eventually going to be captured. But this move gives them the most liberties. Now they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 liberties. And then we can see this group has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and I mean, they're going to have to be forced to connect, but this gives the black group the most possible liberties. White directly connects here, threatening to make 2 eyes. Black doesn't want that to happen. White comes here, making a little bit of territory inside. And the thing is like, this is finally the point, you know, if black does something else now that's, like, pretty small, like, I don't know, just plays like this, white can just do this, and now it's really simple. You know, this might even be worthwhile at this point on the board, which is why black just takes the time to play this move. White connects, more poking, minor poking, and then this is where black says, okay, you're gonna have to go back and capture these, because now you can see that this white group only has 5 liberties. And if white comes down, black can break the shape for making 2 eyes. So now black is saying, alright, we really have to, you're going to have to spend moves to capture in there. And this is interesting. Black plays at the point to break the inner eyes immediately, and this is a cool Tsuji. It's sometimes important in capturing races or life and death problems, because the thing to notice now is that no matter where white plays on the inside, like if white plays here, white's reducing his own liberties. And since this is a capturing race with only 1 liberty differential, this would result in white dying. Like, now white's dead, which is really sad. Or actually, would it... could black play here? Oh, yeah, actually, it doesn't even matter, because black has this outer liberty. So, black connects, white tries to come in, that's Atari, boom. So, this is a cool, playing on the inside point in the shape is a more effective way to reduce the liberties, because now if white descends here, likewise, white's reducing his own liberties by 1, because these stones are on the vital points. And we can see, now at this point, you know, white's got the 2 liberties, but black is going to have to fill here, and if black does that, then white just Ataris, and then if black comes here, white captures. No longer an issue, just some minor capturing. Yeah, again, just ending the Aji, you know, because otherwise black could start this ko, it would be annoying. Threaten. And now this is interesting. So the natural response would be to do this. The problem is that makes this black sente, because if white ignores that, then, you know, just to, you know, play something like up here, this makes the corner into a seki, and you'll notice that white can't play on either side because it would be self-Atari. So this is, you know, something that white has to be careful about, just that these two stones potentially still have life in them. So basically, black would play here, and white would have to come back and play this anyway to actually capture the stones. So instead of playing, you know, directly here, white plays this move, which likewise now black can't play that because that would be self-Atari. So that removes the threat. And white gets the same amount of territory because in the other variation, you know, white gets the point at A5 as territory, but then has to play in at A4 and reduces territory by 1. So this is territorially equivalent, but this is just really good form because it doesn't give black a co-threat at B7. And granted, the game is almost over, and we can read all the small situations left over, and we know there's not going to be a ko, but this is just good form, because if we do play this carelessly, and then a ko erupts somewhere on the board, this is a pretty severe ko threat to take away all this territory in the corner. And in fact, this would be a, you know, game-deciding ko threat, because the score is almost, like, this is a neck-and-neck game. So, you know, that's, I thought that was an interesting point in the corner why white played this move one line back instead of the natural block at A6, and it's because of that potential seki situation. So now just a little bit more. See, finally white comes back and does this, and white does still have some external liberties, but there's no other points on the board that are going to change the score, so they're just filling dame after that. So it's like, I know I'm eventually going to have to do that, just kind of being polite. And you can see here they're just filling in the rest of the dame, and we come to the end of the game, and lo and behold, white wins by half a point. Really an amazing game between two young and rising stars. You know, for KG, you know, for being the #2 in China at 17, like, it just seems like this is going to be a really good player for a really long time. And likewise, Shin Jinseo, just, you know, he's only 14, I think. He's 14. I guess he could possibly be 15. But yeah, it's just like, you know, he won this game. You know, I saw his name on Go Game Guru because he won an exhibition game against, I think it was Li Chengho. Which, I mean, it's an exhibition game, so who knows how seriously Li Chengho was playing, you know. But still, you take a game off Li Chengho, you can be pretty proud of that, whether he was paying a lot of attention or not. And, but yeah, just doing really well. So, super young, already promoted to 2-dan professional, so definitely someone to keep an eye on. We'll see if he can continue playing at this, like, high level as he, you know, moves into playing maybe more regularly in the international tournaments, or playing in some of the domestic Korean tournaments as well. Just keep an eye on him, see if he does anything super amazing coming up here. But yeah, just a great game between two young and rising stars in the Go world. And I thought the corner situation in the upper left was really interesting, the way KG went for this wall. And that's what KG does. He does these weird exchanges where he's like, you know what, just forget the Joseki, I'm going to get this wall on the left side instead and make my opponent go in and capture these stones. And we can see that at the end of the game this wasn't that big of a capture. Normally we think, whoa, we captured a whole corner, but when white has to play all these moves on the inside, you know, I noticed didn't get any of this territory that maybe could have gotten over on the left at some point, you know, so, you know, what could have been 5 points here, and let's see, these stones were all captures, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, so 14, 18. 18 points is a good sized corner, but, you know, I think black got compensation and played his own game. Played his own style really well. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed that, and I'll catch you next time. Thank you for watching.